Hello and welcome to the Ourdadsstamps YouTube channel, where we talk about all things related to stamps and stamp collecting. My name's Pete West and I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to get regular updates of new content. Hello again from Ourdadsstamps, and welcome to the second part of our look at the stamps of Malta. For today's video we start off looking at the King George VI stamps. And Malta, like most British Commonwealth countries, issued the omnibus edition of the coronation stamps in 1937. These are, like a lot of the coronation stamps, individually not particularly valuable and very easy to get hold of. So much so that I have several blocks of these stamps, and I've even been lucky enough to get a first day cover with blocks of 4 on, so that's quite nice. And then also, like a lot of Commonwealth countries, they issued a pictorial set with King George VI image in the corner of them. These range from a farthing up to 10 shillings. The original set was produced in 1938 on the 17th of February, but the lower values were reissued in 1943 in different colours. So you've got 2 different colours for the halfpenny, penny, penny halfpenny, twopence, twopence halfpenny and threepence. And for these values, the original coloured stamps are more valuable mint than the later colours, which were more common. However, the whole set is fairly easy to get hold of and not particularly expensive. And as you can see, there are lots of different shades of each of these stamps due to different print runs. And although these are specialist shades and generally not listed in most catalogues, because the stamps are so easy to get hold of, it didn't take me too long to collect virtually the whole lot. I've still got a couple of the 10 shilling ones to get hold of, but hopefully I'll be able to get hold of them soon. The thing with collecting different shades is that what one person considers carmine red or pale carmine red or deep carmine red may differ from what another person considers these. And also the stamps could have been affected by sunlight, by age, by all sorts of things, accidentally or deliberately. So whilst I think I've got one of each, there may be some stamps in there which an expert would look at and say, no, that's not one of those. However, they're good enough for me, and as I said, they are not hugely valuable, so if I've made a slight mistake, it's not too onerous and it's not too much of a problem. In 1948, these stamps were reissued, overprinted with self-government. And again, this gives another set to collect. Once again, they range from a farthing up to 10 shillings. And by and large, the stamps in use at that time were just overprinted. However, there are some that were specially printed in different colours that weren't on the original issue, such as the penny grey and the penny halfpenny green. So there are different stamps to collect, and once again these are quite easily available and not too difficult to collect and not too expensive either. The Royal Silver wedding issues created controversy throughout the whole of the Commonwealth. In virtually every country there is 2 stamps, one of a low value, in this case in Malta a penny, and one of a high value, in this case a pound. And the pound stamps are fairly expensive to collect. They were obviously expensive to buy at the time, and there was a lot of complaints from the stamp buying public to say that this was really just a money making exercise because there was no real need for a £1 stamp. This was actually the first stamp of that higher value issued in Malta, and it could be argued, or in fact it has been argued, that it really wasn't necessarily to have a £1 stamp. However, saying that, it's a very nice stamp. It is one of the few Malta stamps from King George VI onwards that I haven't yet managed to get hold of a block of 4. They are around, I'm just not prepared to pay the amount required for them at the moment. I'm hoping that I will find a bargain somewhere and be able to get my hands on one of those. As I said, they are nice looking stamps. One of the interesting sets for me was in 1950, the then Princess Elizabeth visited Malta, and they produced a set of stamps to commemorate this in penny green, thrums blue and a shilling black. This is special to me because it was one of the first complete sets of Maltese stamps that I ever collected, and I think I was probably about 7 or 8 at the time. I had lots of low value stamps, as you do at that age, but when I actually managed to get the shilling one and complete the set, it was a nice moment. And on that basis, I've managed to collect the whole set in blocks of 12, which I think looks quite nice. Not long after that, the Princess Elizabeth actually ascended to the throne and became Queen Elizabeth. And in fact, there was only one set of stamps issued in Malta between the Princess Elizabeth visit stamps and the coronation stamp. And soon after the coronation stamp in 1954, there's another set of Maltese stamps that has a special meaning for me. And this is not necessarily because of the stamps, it's because of the first day cover. I have a first day cover that was posted to my father at that time, and it shows the address that they lived at when I was born. So this has got the address of my very first home, and because of that, it's a very special envelope, a very special first day cover, and I will always keep it. And in actual fact, I didn't even know this existed until I inherited my dad's collection after he passed away. And I also didn't know the address of my first home. So if it wasn't for this first day cover, I'd still be none the wiser. Hopefully next time I go to Malta, I'll be able to visit this place and see if it still exists. In 1956, Malta issued the Queen Elizabeth pictorial set in line with most Commonwealth countries. Unlike a lot of Commonwealth countries, these were all different designs than the designs for the King George VI. And again, makes a nice set. And they're not too expensive to get hold of, although maybe surprisingly they're actually more expensive to buy than the King George VI set. But this does include a £1 value, which King George VI set didn't. For those of you that are really into Maltese stamps, 2 stamps from this set, the penny and the twopenny brown, were reissued in 1963 with a different watermark. So it's one to look out for, and they're not always distinguished when people sell sets, so you can sometimes pick them up by accident. They are marginally more valuable than the ordinary ones, but there's not a lot in it, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find those, just to make the complete set. After this set, there's an interesting group of sets issued to commemorate the award of the George Cross to the island of Malta. This is quite a special event for the Maltese people, and on the 15th of April 1942, King George VI awarded the country of Malta and its people the George Cross, which is the highest medal of honour that can be awarded to non-military personnel by the British authorities. And this was in recognition for their courage and bravery in withstanding a German invasion. And we'll talk more about this a little later in the video. But to commemorate this, on the exact day that the George Cross was issued, the 15th of April, they issued a set of commemorative stamps in 1957 and again in 1958 and a third set in 1959. And these all depict images from the war. I think they're quite a nice group of stamps to have together. They are very cheap to get hold of, literally pence, they don't cost a lot. But they are a good commemorative, and because of my Maltese background, it's something that I and the Maltese people are very proud of. So it's a nice set. And in actual fact, in 1961, they issued a further set as well. I don't know what happened in 1960, but in 1961, there was a 4th set to commemorate the awarding of the George Cross. So if you're a thematic collector for all things connected to World War II, then these stamps are certainly ones you want to get hold of. But from a Maltese point of view, they are also an important part of Maltese history and Maltese stamp collecting. In the early 1960s, Malta issued many sets that were issued throughout the Commonwealth, including the Freedom from Hunger omnibus editions and the Red Cross Centenary omnibus stamps. In 1964, Malta gained independence and produced a set of stamps to commemorate this. And as you can see, I've got the complete set in blocks of 15, as once again, these are quite easy to get hold of. There is also a first day cover that has quite a bit of meaning to me, because it's another first day cover that was sent to us whilst we were living in Malta for the second time. And it's a memory of that home and that period of my childhood. With the granting of independence, Malta issued a new definitive set, and some of these have the Queen's head in the corner, some of them don't. Some time ago I did a separate video solely on this issue, because it's quite extraordinary just how many errors and varieties there are with this issue. And so if you'd like to have a look at that, I will put a link to this particular video in the notes below. From 1965 onwards, like many countries throughout the world, Malta started issuing many stamps, and it becomes more and more difficult to keep up with them. And for this reason, my Malta collection only goes up to the start of decimalisation in 1972. A couple of things to note in that time. Malta experimented with stamps of very unusual shapes, particularly on their Christmas issues. And in 1967, they produced trapezoid-shaped stamps, three stamps that fitted together in what's called a triptych. And these were very novel and very unusual for the time. Very easy to get hold of, and during my time had a complete sheet of these stamps. But I find collecting sheets very difficult because of the storage problems, so I sold that on, but I do have a large block of these stamps. And in also 1968, the set for Christmas that year was a pentagon, but not a regular pentagon. There were three sides of a rectangle and then like a roof shape on the top. So again, a most unusual stamp. And as you can see from the image I've got of a block of 4, a very imaginative way of how to fit the stamps together in a complete sheet. There were some other unusual stamps issued by Malta at this time, including one to commemorate the Council of Europe art exhibition. And these are entirely in black with the paintings on the front and words in gold. So these look very different from most stamps around and are quite interesting to collect. As I said, my Malta collection only goes up to decimalisation in 1972. However, I've made 2 exceptions to this, and they are both for personal reasons. One is a set that was produced in 2011 to commemorate Malta buses. The set is entitled End of an Era, and it's 2 sheets of 10 stamps in each sheet showing the old-fashioned Maltese buses. Now this means quite a lot to me because these buses were actually in use when I lived in Malta in the 60s, and they were all owner-driver buses. They were painted in different colours, and it was different colours depending on which part of the island they were going to. And this was a good system in use because literacy levels on the island were quite low, and it meant if you wanted to get back to your village, you didn't necessarily need to have to read the front of the bus. You could just look for the colour and get on a bus of that colour. It was a good system, and it made the buses look fantastic when you were driving round, and again brings back happy memories. I also have a postcard of each of these buses as well, which are hanging on my wall. So yeah, it's a special time and a special memory. The second set that I have made an exception to buy was issued in 2012, and this was to commemorate the success of Operation Pedestal. Now, for those of you that don't know, this was an operation carried out during World War II to save the island, basically. The German forces had tried to take over Malta because of its strategic place in the Mediterranean, and had for 3 years continually bombed the island in an attempt to get the locals to surrender. When that wasn't working, they also blockaded the island completely so that it was impossible for Allied ships to get supplies in. And in fact, between March and June 1942, there were no supplies arrived on the island at all. And this meant that the islanders were in a perilous position with food running out and they were virtually starving. But also from a military point of view, there was no fuel left for the Air Force that was based there. And so an operation was mounted where a convoy of ships was sent in with supplies. And in actual fact, there were 14 merchant ships and over 50 naval ships escorting the convoy, trying to get supplies into Malta. And despite heavy attacks from all the Axis forces over the whole period of the convoy, they managed to arrive in Malta on the 15th of August. Out of the 14 merchant ships, only 4 of them survived, plus an oil tanker that had the priceless aviation fuel to be able to get the planes flying again. The 15th of August is actually the Feast of Santa Maria in Malta, and so in Malta it is known as the Santa Maria Convoy. And the arrival of that convoy basically saved the islanders from having to surrender and submit to the German forces. So again, it's a very special event in Maltese history, and they produced a series of stamps to commemorate this. The stamps depict the 88 vessels that were part of the convoy, including all the merchant ships, all the Royal Navy ships, and some support craft as well that supplied the convoy. These are on mini sheets, and each sheet contains 8 stamps and 2 labels, one of which is a photograph of the convoy at that time, and the other just a sticker detailing the commemoration. Once again, I bought this set for personal reasons, for just to commemorate a great event in the history of somewhere that I was born. So it means a lot to me. And also, once again, if you're a thematic collector who likes collecting things associated with World War II, then this is certainly an issue that you would want to collect. They're moderately priced. I think I picked this set up for around about £40 for the whole set. So that's not a bad thing for 11 sheetlets. And it was certainly well worth it for me. So thank you for listening. I hope that has whetted your appetite about Maltese stamps, and maybe now you'd have another look at them and perhaps start collecting. I enjoy all my Maltese stamps. As I said, a lot of them have special meanings for me, and that's one of the reasons why I collect Maltese stamps. And I'm sure a lot of people are the same, that you collect stamps based on your interests or your experiences, and they mean something special to you. So enjoy your stamp collecting. I certainly enjoy mine, and we'll see you again in a couple more weeks. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable. Don't forget you can visit my online stores at eBay and Delcamp under the name of Ourdadsstamps, where I have over 2,000 items for sale. Please join us again in 2 weeks' time for another edition of Ourdadsstamps podcast.